Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, with the Italian Grand Prix. We return to Monza, the temple of speed. The loyal tifosi are gathering in hopes of a homecoming victory, but everyone here is united to watch Formula One cars roar around the lowest downforce circuit on the calendar. Monza, a centurion among circuits, dripping with motorsport history. Expect to see cars fly by, as 80% of the track is tackled at full throttle. It's not all go, however, and brakes can be prone to overheating through the tight chicanes that Monza has to offer. All 10 teams are now getting set up as the drivers prepare to face the 53 laps of the Italian Grand Prix. If Pierre Gasly's feeling the pressure, he's certainly not showing it.
We both know they won't be happy in P17, but we're also expecting to see them give it everything they've got.
And it looks like we're good to go. Here we go. It's the Italian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode number 60. We're at Monza. Big race for the Tifosi, but what will it be for us? Well, for Florsch, she's P19. She qualified P20, though, as always. She just cannot put together pace. Meanwhile, though, Crawford did not only make Q3, but 7th. This might be his best natural qualifying position, as he did not overtake anyone through penalties or anything like that. He was well and truly the 7th quickest. Now, both drivers, I've opted for the soft to medium one-stop strategy, which is really pushing it. Only a couple cars have gone for the mediums, more conservative, let those tires last strategy. So we're going to be amongst it with others. But this really does mean that last lap or two can be deadly if you don't take it easy early on. So Florsch is one that I definitely want to back off with early. And we'll already start backing off with her, though we'll keep the fuel going. We're only under-fueled by a single lap, so at 2.1 kilograms, it's definitely not as bad. And we can use up that battery and that extra fuel to help us keep up with others. As for Crawford, as we're all over the back of the Mercedes, halfway through this lap, we're going to start to do the same thing. Just help eke out an extra percentage or two to really help with that final lap of the stint. If at all possible, if we get a VSC or something, we'll try to extend a little bit to set us up for later. But one of the two cars on mediums, you can see just how much pace he is losing with the Mercedes. We're all over the back of them, even though we lifted pretty early on. DRS enabled, but we don't get it here. It'll be on the next zone. We get a look at the inside, but we're not going to be able to get enough there to keep going. But like I said, the next DRS zone, I think it's looking like Norris is going to be a pretty easy one to get around, especially as he's already outside of DRS range. If we can slingshot ourselves into DRS range of the next car ahead, then we're all set. But it looks like it's not going to happen here on the backstretch. Between the chicane and the two right-handers, you've got just a little bit too much to follow closely. But as you come around the now formerly known Parabolica through here, it's a lot easier to get a run. Still can't overtake them, though, without some sort of push. For now, I don't mind following. Norris is actually catching up to those ahead just a little bit. We're going to settle in, though. Let things go as is, as Crawford does finally get around Norris. But with a 3-second gap, it is starting to grow as we swap back and forth. It'd be nice if others would get out of DRS range and stretch the field. For now, it's not. You've got the front 5 that have pulled away, and then the rest of the field all bunched up. That's pretty much closer between 6th and 20th than it is from 5th to 6th. Just about, anyway. Not actually, but within reason. Gap's starting to get even bigger. Now it's 5 seconds to those guys. Russell's also fallen off that front group. Meanwhile, Florsch has gotten around the second Haas car as she is up into P18. We have our first crash of the day. Alpine going up the inside. It's Bottas going up the inside of an Aston Martin. That's it's like Aston Martin is involved in every single car, every single accident this season. Investigation is a no penalty given situation. We are starting to see that field spread. Russell is going backwards towards our small group, and where that accident took place, backed up that part of the grid from 10th on down. So 10th to 20th is now further behind. Gap opened, and suddenly we're looking at a small group of cars that are in the position we are in going forward, and we've got some early pit stops here. Those guys have got to be on 2 stoppers that are going now. And it's most of the field. Are we going to be alone in the 1 stopper? Let's go light. If we're going to stretch, we're going to stretch. There's been nothing but a local yellow so far, and we've got to help. Crawford's all the way up in P2 right now. Still battling with Norris, who now pits. Florsch is all the way up in P7, just to show how close the field has been packed in through this. And we're still above 30% as we finally enter the pit window. But again, can't really afford to pit early, as those mediums are also going to have to stretch. So Norris slingshots around Crawford. He's on those mediums. He should be faster than us right now. But 33 and 31%. Crawford a little bit worse for wear. But if we can stay on Norris, 2 1/4 more laps. That's rough. That's pushing it. We're still at 30%. We have 2 laps to go with tire wear warning already. As long as we don't puncture, we're fine. Meanwhile, Florsch is hanging in there, right behind the other Mercedes of Ocon. Certainly putting together an impressive performance, decent pace for her. But now she's at that 30% and below, with just over 1 lap to go. And that is the medium compound Norris pitting before us. We're going to have to pit this lap, though. We cannot wait an additional lap. But at 26%, I don't think we have a choice. Now, Florsch, we might be able to eke out that 1 more lap. Fuel recovery is going okay, but we are nearly halfway through the race. 1.5 kilograms, 2.6 kilograms. We were about 2.3 after we let up. Maybe 2.4 after we let up. Might have still been 2.2. But Crawford down pit road. 1 and only pit stop of the day. Pit 1 lap later. Crawford. 2.314. It's a pretty good stop. Now a lot of cars around us while we have been undercut. It's pretty clear the majority of the field is going to go for a 2 stopper. And that 1 stopper, I really don't think we lost that much pace. Sure, we're in 11th instead of 6th, 7th, and we've definitely lost. No, Russell was ahead of us, right? We would have been about 15. We've lost 6 seconds compared to where others are. So that being said, like, okay, we lost a little bit of time. So far, just 6 seconds. If we lose 6 seconds again on the next one, it's still going to be a net gain compared to those on the 2 stopper. So if we can make it work, it will work in our favor. 2.285 for Florsch, pretty good stop. And she comes back out in P19. She's still not last. That's awesome. Pourchaire is last. Pourchaire, the Aston Martin that was involved in that crash with Bottas. So yeah, we are behind both of the Haas cars. And again, she also lost roughly 6 seconds. We also did get that 1 additional lap for her. So we're in a good place. We're not pushing with either. We're just cruising. We're already back up to P10 with Crawford. And Sonoda is pitting right now. Wow, look at that. Everybody is on the hards. This is going to give us some extra pace here. Are they all going to try to go the distance and do a 1 stopper just with the hard compound? Well, my guess is yes, they are going to try that. We get extra pace out of the mediums that others are not going to have. Sonoda pits, hards, 99%. We've gotten ahead of Bottas, but can we get away from? He's the only one who's on us, back with Crawford, meanwhile. 4 seconds behind Norris. That's quite a bit, considering we pit 1 lap after him and had a good pit stop, right? That's a pretty healthy gap there between the two. We are pulling away from Albon, though, and we were holding steady with Norris. Zhou Guan Yu and Carlos Sainz. They are now the next vehicle ahead of me, down to P7 and P8 from being a bit further up the grid there. Norris and Russell in the no man's land in between us, and then we have a group till about P12. So points are definitely not a lock at this point. And where we have a pace advantage, and we've caught Zhou Guan Yu, And we caught signs. We got around both of them. We are now P7 at just 3 seconds behind Norris. Florsch is also all the way up in P16, so she's having a nice little race here. We're down to 1 kilogram on the fuel. We might have to lift and coast, but very briefly. We're certainly not doing bad. That 1 lap later has about a 3.5 to 4% advantage for Florsch. It's going to help her in that final lap or so. Crawford a little bit worse off. Albin has gotten around us, but we are also closing in more and more on Norris, who's just 2 seconds ahead of Albin. Florsch right behind Magnussen has gotten away from the 2 Haas cars, so she's moving forward, but also needs to lift and coast a little bit. Florsch gets around Magnussen even while doing the lift and coast. Is this a matter of the mediums being faster than the hards at this point? Maybe. Fuel right, just a few laps to go. Florsch is 15th, right behind Sargent, who's right behind Maloney. Maloney with the lockup. And drops to P19. Wow, Florsch is up to 14th. Well in control, but close to one another. It's Ocon, Stroll, Verstappen, Leclerc for now. And then 20 seconds to Norris, who finally got around Russell. And we are 1.5 seconds as we've gotten around Albin with a lap to go. Just over a lap to go. We're looking at about a lap and a half left in this race. Florsch just inside 2 laps to go. Is up to P13. Sargent drops 2 positions as Florsch and Gio go by. And then go aggressive. Now go aggressive. We're definitely behind. That was at the detection zone. Oh, we didn't get the DRS. He did. We were half a car length down. This might be a P8, but Florsch P13. Wonderful race for her. She continues to make her push. Try to hang on to that position. With DRS. Does not look to be, yeah, no, he is intentionally tucked in and going, wait, no, I can't pass him. No, I can't pass him. That's it for the fuel. That's it for the battery. He's not going to get him. Not going to get him. Florsch, though. Give her final little push. Yeah, but that's sad. I hate seeing that, where you see a driver who doesn't even, like, they're looking, but they don't actually make a move to try to get alongside. That's P8, but Florsch, solidly in P13, is already in the safe zone. Maybe. Ooh, maybe not. Last deploy here. And attack. Gotta get to the line. And she does. P13. Hey, we'll take that. P8, P13. That's a decent result for our team. Albin ahead of us in the Alfa Romeo, though. Not a great result there, but we beat both Alpines. We beat a Red Bull. We beat both Haas cars, both Alfa Tauris, both McLarens. All in all, decent race. Definitely a decent race. We had both of the fastest pit stops in the race with only 1 apiece. That's a great sign and helps us solidify that second place. We're actually closing in on Red Bull a little bit there too. The monthly car development report continues to show that slight decrease in our position in cornering, the acceleration still being well off, but overall top speed being there, the dirty air cornering being the best. The engine cooling is all the way up to 4th now, with the brake cooling at 15th. We do have new side pods to get onto the car here very soon, so we'll be looking to upgrade to those in the near future. We also have another upgrade, a suspension upgrade that just finished. We're also we're a couple days away from ending the current period, starting a new development period. So we'll have those hours back once again to begin our next upgrades. On the driver development upgrade side, Jack Crawford's an 80 overall, adds 1 to his smoothness and accuracy, both good points to have. Meanwhile, for Florsch, +2 to cornering is much needed. +1 to adaptability is forgettable. But for Tanaka, it's a much better month here. +1 to cornering, +2 to braking, and +1 to smoothness. It's a good spread of points. 3 very much needed pace points, and 1 in smoothness. 4 overall. is okay. She's on the verge of being a 60 overall, and that would give us actually a really even numerical milestone set with an 80, 70, and a 60 for our drivers. Bernard's starting to get dangerous in a really good way. Her training's up to 100. Her process has gone from a 90 to a 91, and her aptitude has gone from an 86 to an 89. That's the cap of the pit crew attributes. So that has bumped by 3 points. And the leadership one's really less important. Minimizes delay when there's a pit stop mistake. If you never make a mistake because you have really good pit crew attributes, then that leadership one becomes quite irrelevant. Once we have one of these maxed out, of course, we'll start to focus some attention on it to train it, but I don't mind it being significantly lower. There's a new vote on the catering rule. Let's increase the cost cap by $5 million so that you can afford more catering. We're going to vote against that. As we're starting to roll into the later part of the season, for one, it's already September. There's only a handful of races to go. We're not going to get additional upgrades, really. So our latest underfloor design, our latest rear wing design, which I didn't show you, we're going to shave off even more weight than we have in the past to get a little more performance out of them, because by next year you recover that durability factor. I'm actually even tempted to take that one step further. You know what? We are going to take it. We're going to take it that one step further. It's going to give us that little more acceleration. It's going to give us a decent amount of additional top speed, but it's going to give us a lot of additional cornering, especially at high speed. And I think it's well worth the sacrifice of them just not lasting terribly long through the end of the season, especially as that gets a healthy reset. But we've already finished 15 races. We have 3 this month before those upgrades are even going to be done, which means we'll be at 18. It's really just for the very, very end of the season. Hence the, you know what, it's okay. I think we can handle having really low durability at the end. Despite our quality performance in that last race and the 4 points that we picked up, Alfa Romeo have actually jumped us in the standings to go to 7th, as Albon got us there at the end to get their 7 points. But we're just 2 behind him, and it's very much now a 3-team battle for 7, 8, 9. And I like our chances being in that 7 or 8, but Alfa Romeo definitely looks strong in that last race. But does that just mean that they have more pace, more straight line speed, maybe not aerodynamic, and on another track will be even better? We'll find out, I guess, soon enough. Our earlier attempts at re-signing Florsch for the long term had failed, but now at 1.75 million, that's a really small salary as far as things go, but from a 500k salary, it's a bit of a boost. But that extra 1.2 million over the course of a year is not going to hurt us in the grand scheme of things. It's going to be pretty easy to cover that off, and so we have Florsch now signed up for 5 more years, and that's very much the long-term deal that we want. We need her to get some better pace, though. I mean, that is the thing that is hurting us with her, because yes, she's a 70 overall, but as we discovered recently, it's not really a 70. Her pace is in the lower 60s, but her recent attribute gains where it counts, cornering, braking, etc., it's going to help with that. Last race was a decent performance.
Our Formula One season continues here, in the Republic of Singapore. Singapore's Marina Bay is a floodlit extravaganza for the senses and a true test for F1 drivers. Cars are just inches away from the walls on this tight street circuit, and even at night, the air thrums with heat. The bumpy street surfaces here make this a challenging circuit for the drivers, and the humidity causes them to lose as much as 3 kilos over the course of a race. But it's also tough on the cars, with 23 corners to tackle each and every lap. Good low-speed downforce will make all the difference here. Final checks are being carried out on the grid, and it won't be long until we get underway. The focus for many in this race will be on the Aston Martin driver.
Starting dead last in 20th isn't the ideal way to go into a race, but where will they be come the checkered flag?
And it'll be exciting to see just what will happen here today. And this is it, the Singapore Grand Prix. it's lights out, and away we go.
While I do believe plenty of commenters who hate street tracks, there are bad street tracks. I do not believe that all street tracks are bad. In fact, some are good. Some are very good. But Singapore is easily one of my top 5 favorite tracks. I haven't put together a proper list. But if I were to make one, it would definitely make the list. I enjoy the surroundings. I enjoy the track. I enjoy the atmosphere of the night race. It's pretty cool. Kind of wish they didn't make the change here along the marina, though. I would have liked I did like the cutout through there. However, I get that it allows for a little more overtaking, but we're talking about like a 0.1% improvement. Mercedes start with a 1-2. We did not get out of Q1 for this race, but there's more than one reason for that. One key reason, and it's a reason that I understood going into this, that this is a driver's track. And the most technical driver's tracks we have underperformed at because we have drivers, we have pilots who just aren't that good. As good as Jack Crawford is, he is nowhere near the quality of the field surrounding him. Is he better than any drivers other than Florsch? That's debatable. We had checked that a long time ago, and he was, I think, maybe a point below everybody else. He's an 80 overall now, so maybe he's level. Regardless, he's right at the back of the grid in terms of quality. So you give him a good car, and it bumps him up a little bit, but not much. And Florsch was pretty comfortably last place. You can see as we've gone through our 2 laps and are settling in here, we're going to make a 2-stopper with a soft, medium soft, thanks to not making it to even Q2. It's going to give us a little bit better chance to do something in this race where others might have weaker choices, slower choices. Could help us out, but in all, I doubt we're going to do well. Again, driver's track, primary factor. Secondary factor, knowing that primary factor, knowing that it's a driver's track, knowing that we are not going to be as competitive here as we are at other tracks, knowing that we are playing with a budget, knowing that we're playing with a cost cap, knowing that we're still building for the long term, for the future, I decided that this is a race to throw away. And therefore, the components, 53, 59, 88 for Florsch, for Crawford, 51, 59, 68. We didn't bring the good stuff here. We brought acceptable stuff. We brought stuff that was still race worthy, but it was on the edge of race worthy. It was at the beginning stages of being practice worthy. Only put another race in under their belt, and they're definitely practice worthy. And hey, it saves us some money, potentially $7.5 million from needing one less set of components as the season goes on, because we've got a full race less wear and tear on them. That being said, the idea, the concept for this race, well, we're going to be lucky to get a point. And I've won Singapore in this game, but it was F1 Manager 22. My first ever victory was a Singapore victory, and it was a come from behind after a fairly late safety car with the bold decision to make a pit stop, and we came out and used the softs to overtake. We had about 10 laps to overtake 11, 12 cars, and we had gone into it in 6th or 7th when we pit. It was a wonderful race, still memorable for me. If you saw it, let me know in the comments below if you were watching that F1 Manager 22 series back then. It was a lot of fun. And it was a very different game, though. The AI was so much easier to beat than it is this year. And I could tell that the game would offer a decent challenge, more of a challenge. Even if we, say, took, well, the base Williams lineup, right? If we stuck with Albon and Sargent, I think we would have been competing, especially with Albon. I think we would be right at the front of the grid right now with Albon. So I think we could have won the game by now, you know, with 2 drivers in the upper to mid 80s. I think with this car that would have been enough. But where we're at, Crawford has enough trouble just getting points, and he's an 80 overall. And if I remember correctly, Pourchaire won the championship as a 79 overall. Maybe he was a couple of points higher, but it certainly wasn't anything significant by the time he won the championship. I know we signed him in the mid-70s, low 70s, and he performed within a pretty short period of time. Anyway, lap 7 of 63. Not much doing for this race. We've moved forward a position. That's nice and all, but yeah, it's going to be a quiet day. I think the difference in this exact challenge in F1 Manager 22 versus 23, I think realistically what we would be looking at is the equivalent of, say, going up against an all-star team. Well, let's not use F1 for this reference. Let's use another sport. Let's say, because here teams are very much not all created equal, right? Let's say you went to the NBA and you took an all-star team. You've got Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, you've got LeBron James, you've got Kevin Durant, you've got Giannis, all playing together. And you are, like, say, the Portland Trail Blazers this year, my hometown team, who had Damian Lillard and has since moved on from him, if you don't follow the sport closely. Long story short, they are in a rebuild as Crawford ready to pit. It's a team full of a lot of young players that are growing and developing and show promising signs. They've won 15 games this season, so it's not like they're that bad. But they've also lost really bad. The challenge is getting that team of rookies to compete and win a championship against an NBA littered with quality, but one team in particular that is essentially that all-star team, and try to beat them. It's not easy. But it can be done, because you've got guys that were very high draft picks that have a ton of potential. You give them a number of years of development, you improve your coaching staff, and suddenly you find yourself competitive and winning a lot of games and getting to the playoffs and fighting for a championship. And if we throw in a little reality, you've got a group of players that are all older and in their 30s. You add a couple more years, they're going to get slower, they're going to get weaker. Some of those players are amazing quality, but a bit of a liability on defense. So it's going to turn into a bit of an all-star game, and where if you can outshoot them or out-defend them, you could beat them. Crawford, into the pits. We'll finish our analogy here in a moment with following this pit stop. Both cars down pit road. Crawford on board. We just saw Florsch entering pit road behind. We've got enough room for the double stop, but not by much. Not a great stop there, but no mistakes. 2.501. We come out right behind Bottas, and here's Florsch still coming down pit road. So yes, you can see we've got a little bit of a space between them. Easy double stack, no problem. 2.291. Overall, her pace is not awful compared to Crawford, especially when we very much nerfed the both of them. But off they go. They still have another stop to make, and for now, P19 and P20, just a few of us on the mediums, plus Norris, who was at the front of the field and has pit. There's definitely still nearly half the field that need to pit. So decent chance that we will move forward at least a little bit with one or both of these cars, more likely with Crawford. Now, the F1 Manager 23 version of that challenge. Okay, the challenge to beat that all-star team. Timetable's the same. The Blazers, not the professional one, the G League team. Or, let's say, my alma mater, the Oregon Ducks. Take it a college basketball team. Take it a high school basketball team. taking a middle school basketball team. It's taking someone who is not just at the back end of the grid, at the same level. It's taking someone who is well below competitively, well below competitively, and expecting them to grow and develop. And in this game, yeah, there is growth and development. We've seen it. There is F2 drivers in this field. We've got Zane Maloney. We have Pourchaire. In and of itself, that this game does not favor F2 drivers. Now, last year I had a pair of F2 drivers, and we took first and third in the championship, whatever the case would have been with that one. Only won the title by a small margin, but we had F2 drivers, and we won a drivers' championship and a constructors' championship with a pair of F2 drivers. That's not what we have. Was Crawford F2 at the start of this? Now that's a question. What do we actually have when it comes to Crawford? Was he F3 at the start of this? Top end F3 or bottom end F2? I'm not entirely sure. Now I'm curious. Flourish clearly was bottom end F3. Right? We went to the very, very bottom of the pool. We went to G League being your F2. I'd say your rebuilding programs, your Detroit Pistons, your Portland Trailblazers, that's more like your F2s. Quality F2s. Your Pourchaires, your Maloneys, your Crawfords, wherever he was, mid F2 possible. But your G League is, your bottom end of F2 and your top end of F3. But the bottom end of G League, the worst team in G League, I think that's what we're kind of working with here. They're not amateurs, right? Flourish is not an amateur. She could drive the wheels off anything. She is a fantastic athlete. She is... If I hopped in behind the wheel, she would beat me handily. I'm a good driver. Everybody says that about themselves, even when they've had 10 accidents. I have not, but... It's still a common thing to do. The point being that even these lowest F3 drivers, and even the AI created ones in the pool, these new gens, they're still professional drivers. But there's a serious difference in the pace, in the consistency, in the abilities, and in the development. And the development rate in this game is just plain slow. The reality would be we're, 4 years in? Probably not going to be around for 3 years. Really doesn't have great pace. Sargent is one that's iffy, but will he develop? He's young. Bottas has only shown so much pace, and you give him 3 more years, and if he's still not shown pace, which he certainly hasn't in the game, I wouldn't keep him around at Alpine. Albon's had chances and squandered it, but I think he'll get more. He's re-emerged. Gio is somebody who never showed much pace. Slightly competitive. We're talking about a world-class driver, but it's the world-class series, where barely on the edge, just over that line, isn't enough. It doesn't keep you in your seat long-term. Not in modern day. Not with so many drivers waiting behind, like Maloney, like Pourchaire, ready to take those seats off of them. I don't see Gio being an F1 long term. Magnussen, with age, might be gone in a few years. But there's changeover. There's too much quality in F2 to not give somebody a chance, to not bring somebody along, to not have that next great driver, that next great young driver. Too many veteran drivers that are just okay. Their seats are going to be in jeopardy. Can just about begin to push on this one, I think. And pit. Flourish is all the way down in last place. She is on the lead lap. We have a safety car. We are going to pit early. And go to the softs. With the safety car, I don't think we're going to be hurting being behind, but we are going to pit right now. Flourish just past pit road. But Crawford will pit. Slap 41 of 63. We'll see what this can do for us positionally, but we're talking about just, what, two guys that have already pit? Piastri. The one who pit here, or the one who crashed here, that is.
And there's contact with the
Bad place to lose it.
And that's a tough one
That's
to
a
take
DNF.
for both driver and the car.
With Alonso, there's more to it. It's not just attitude. They don't do any of the simulator work. They don't help the team develop. He is the worst driver in the modern era when it comes to being a part of a team and contributing. He just does his own thing, and most everybody is pitting under these conditions. We'll see how many opt for the softs. It's a couple laps early for it, but because of the safety cars, we just ghosted somebody and did not get held up like crazy before, and that was a good pit stop, 2.429. I think we might have actually moved up a spot there. Come out ahead of Russell. We come out ahead of Bottas. Florish is too far down, though. So far behind. Oh, my. On board with Crawford as we resume racing here on lap 45 of 63. Those safety car laps have helped us. I think we'll be okay making it to the end of the race. We're not the only ones who opted for it, as Porsche did as well. And I tried really hard to prolong the life of the tires a little bit. But all those cars on the hards are going to be sitting ducks to those on the mediums. And we should definitely have some extra pace here. And from P11, there's a chance of getting into the points today. But we're going to have to be really careful. We don't want to push on long. Again, those few laps under safety car will help us extend the life. Fuel's good. Battery's full. But how long will everyone push on? We're only going to push one lap for the tires. We're going to ease off there. And we'll keep an eye on others and start to back off soon in the other departments. But the fuel, we could definitely push on through this second lap all the way. Flor's got around Magnussen, by the way, so she is up one spot. She's got multiple cars on hards just ahead of her. All right, so settling in at 11th and 18th. Hard compound mostly behind us, which means Crawford should have a pretty easy time holding them off and hopefully seeing gaps open. All those on the mediums ahead, though, could be a threat. We're already a second ahead of Bottas. Let's push on and make sure that that second grows and not shrinks. Might be a good time to overtake Zhou Guanyu as well. Florish around Maloney and now fighting with Sargent. Won't quite get him, but she's got all those hard compound guys just ahead of her. We got Guanyu Zhou out of DRS range, so he's more than a second behind us now. And we are challenging the hard compound driver of Leclerc, but we settle back in, thinking better of it for the second half of that chicane. Not really sufficiently alongside anyway. You can see just how often we're kind of having a look here. Let's go top up. We have a definite pace advantage here, and I don't think going top up is going to hurt us too much. But that's Sainz and Leclerc. Wouldn't that be something if they took each other out and we were suddenly P8? Flourish. Around Sargent. P16 for her. Just locked up. Self-inflicted there. Looks like he'll be able to continue on. In fact, he's only lost. Well, he was second. He's now fifth. So he did lose some ground there. Russell has made his way through some traffic, though, and that's going to help him draw them back in towards Crawford. That's a little bit of a concern for us. Aston Martin.
Was the seventh corner.
And
not much room to move.
Every crash seems to be an Aston Martin crash these days. And here it was again. Every coming together of cars, anyway. Crawford has closed back up on these guys, so that's good. No penalties given, so no chance to get a 5-second overtake on somebody like Ocon, who is struggling. Norris went forward a little bit. Ocon's going backwards. 26% is what we've got that battery up to from 4. Took quite a few laps just to get that. Still topping up for Florish. She's down to 18th. Back to neutral for her. She does have some spare fuel to make a push. I think best place for the overtake is here and starting from here. because you can definitely close up through these areas, get tight. It's harder to follow through there, but if you're close, you can get a run. And getting overtaken instead of overtaking. Looks like it's going to end up being a P19 for her in the end. She lacks the pace. The bonus from the tires is now gone. She's below 50%. And all of a sudden, she's just simply slow. So Crawford also looking a little slow now from where we were before. So we're going to have to be pretty defensive if we're going to hang on and get... We didn't have any mediums. So if not for the softs, we would have been on hards. If we were on the hards, I doubt we would have had the pace. And suddenly we don't have the pace. A couple bad corners, and we have been dropped out of DRS range. Russell's going to be all over us and overtakes us that easy. Just like that. We lose half a second. Who has crashed, though?
Yes,
Stroll.
yes, we've had a crash.
Stroll is
What happened
out.
there?
Back into the points. That this VSC might get us to the end of the race. It would have been nice if we got that P9, but we might end up getting a point anyway today with a crap car. Still under VSC conditions as we begin the final lap. Will it lift before the end of the lap, though? Florsch is 4 seconds off the back, so she's definitely not going to go forward even if it does lift. And it is. It's prepared to lift here. We're definitely going in a forward direction here and challenging Russell.
Max Verstappen over the finish line and today's winner.
But this is the end. Final corner, final straight, finish. In the points, we got 1 today. I'll take it. It's a decent point. Could have hoped for better. Could have expected worse. Florsch, nearly competitive. Just not quite enough. The driver factor really showed with her. Showed with Crawford too, but not quite as bad. That is going to do it for this episode, though. At least we managed to get 3 points and a point. We got points in both race weekends here.
What a
Still not a
dreadful
great
day it ended up
performance.
being for the Williams driver.
Decent, though. Decent,
Well, I
not too
think
bad.
most people
That's going to do it for
expected
this
them to
episode, though.
really
I'm
deliver
Decathlon
here.
Gamer. Like, comment,
It's a
subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
disappointing finish outside
Have a good
the
one.
points.
Be safe out there. Bye for now.